Well, I'm here. Glad to be here. I'm glad to be able to share some things with you today. Uh, I've been planning on doing this last month, and then end up had things come up, and now I have something else come up, and I'm going to be off with some former missionaries, seniors that we were with, and so still want to share what I have here. I apologize to those of you that have already heard this. Hopefully there'll be something new in it to pick up on that. But this is using an IRA to invest and some of the ins and outs in that and what is good about it. So as you know, there are different IRAs. There's the regular 401 IRA. You put your money in it. You don't pay taxes putting it in. When you pull it out after investing over the years, you pay your taxes on it. Then there's a Roth IRA where you pay tax on your money before it goes in, and then whatever you invest, whatever you get, any increase in that, you don't have to pay taxes on that at all. It's tax-free. The one that I think is by far the best one to use is self-directed IRA, Roth IRA. And with this one here, especially, there's different ones even with this. I've had them where and I've switched from one to one, sometimes buying out, sometimes moving it. I've had IRA where I was able to buy and sell property with it. They wrote all the checks. They did everything in their name. They did, for the benefit of Rod 5, and found it quite a hassle sometimes working with them. The one that I've settled in and been with for the last 5 years or so is a self-directed IRA that has an LLC as a part of it that I own, or the IRA owns, and have a regular check account that I work with. I do all the depositing, I'll do all the signing, and likewise with deeds and everything else. And that is what by far the one that is best one out there. And feel like you're really directing it. You're not having to wait for other people around. You can sign a deed, you can sign a contract, all those things. So probably the hardest thing about a Roth IRA is funding it and getting it to a point where you can use it. You can only put in $5,000 annually plus a catch up of $1,000 if you're over 50 years of age. And you have to look and find ways to be creative to be able to get that funded. Probably one of the best ones I've heard, and I never did it this way, and that was where they did an option money from the IRA, and then they sold that option and increased the value. And working with members of UAIC, the Exchange Group, and NC, you could find some that could work out beneficially where you could get that funding of the IRA up higher than, so you have $50,000, $100,000 or so to really be able to work with. Let me tell you how I did it though. And sorry those of you that heard it already. Number one is all investments that you do have to be in the name of the IRA, have to be deeded to it, and they have to be non-recourse type loans. So if it goes bottoms up, they don't come back on you. They can only go back to the Roths. And so basically, hey, the only thing they have is take the property back. And number two is an important part of it is you cannot use this for personal use. So I go out and buy 10 acres. It's an investment. That is supposedly building appreciation and plan on turning around, sell it. Technically, during the time that you own it, you cannot go out and camp on it and use it to your beneficial use that way. And I don't know why that is, but that's part of it. So here's what I did. Sorry again to those that have heard it already. Got about 25,000 in my Roth. I went out and I bought. Get this back to my full face. I went out and bought land. And I did one big one that was probably the best one. Found the gentleman, found some old land that a subdivision been formed, I think like in the 40s, had one little cabin they had for a sales shed on it, and they sold a whole bunch of it down in Las Vegas. And then there were still like 40 pieces of property that was sold to a guy by the name of Jerry Polis, and Jerry had it there and just was sitting forever. So with my 25,000, I went to Jerry and said, hey, I will buy your property here. It's been sitting here and doing nothing. And I'll buy these lots, which were from 1 acre up to 5 acres. And I'll buy them for $1,500 an acre. But I want you to carry the contract. I want to buy it through my Roth. So I gave him $25,000 up front. And then I think I end up with still $115,000 that I owed him. And I negotiated with him right up front. And I said, you've been sitting here getting nothing out of it forever. I will sell these properties, and my payments to you will be the properties which are under contract. So, of course, people will buy anything if they have little or nothing down to put into it. And so that's what I did. I went out and sold a lot, bought it for $1,500 for 1 acre, and I'd sold it for $7,000 or so. I sold it at 10% interest over 10 years with $500 to $1,000 down. I would hold on to it for 5 to 6 months, make sure that they're going to make a payment on it. At that point, I would do a note and a trust deed on it, so it was in the people's name, and I would assign those over to Jerry Polis. So I sell it for $7,000. They still $6,500 after a period of time that. I assign it to Jerry. I get $6,500 credit off of the note amount that I had with him at $115,000. And I did that over the years and each of them, I never did pay any actual cash after that, but sold many of them. And of course, during that time, I also had money accumulating as payments came in for the different ones in my IRA. Well, my IRA was building up, and likewise the value as far as the subdivision. That money had to go out and I'd buy other piece of property, put it into my Roth IRA. They decided to cash me out on one of those. Sometimes I paid to Jerry, sometimes I keep it myself. But we'd clear it out, and then we'd use that money to buy other piece of property. So all of them, like I said, I bought them at $1,500 an acre. I probably sold them at 3 times amount, or close to 2 to 3 times the amount I paid for them. And I started this in 2004. I did the last of them this last summer. So I bought them at $1,500. I sold them for 2 to 3 times as much, but I'd put them under contract at a 10% interest rate, and I'd add another 50% in value. So through the period of time, for $7,500, I'd pay for it. By the time I'd go through the contract, I would probably collect $2,500 to $30,000 on individual lots. And after keeping, I did about $10,000 improvements on road and put pad sites in on them, make them so we can use it right away, we can put our tents up there, whatever. And as a result of that, they were just easy to sell, very easy to sell, And for me, now I'm on the other end of it now. I actually put the last of them under contract. I've probably gotten out of cash to me, I've gotten excess of probably $175,000, $200,000. With what I still have coming in, I will probably end up in the area about $300,000 from one initial $25,000 investment where I was paying on contract by selling him back different parcels. So beneficial, patience, yeah, it's not something to get rich quick, but it has been extremely beneficial to me. And so one of those things that I highly recommend, and there's just one of the many formulas that we can do to be able to increase wealth, and we do it patiently, and we do it over a long period of time. So feel free to email me or call me or anything else if you have the questions. I'm sorry I couldn't attend today. I may attend, but I'm going to have to come off the mountain to do it and leave my wife there. So we'll see if I make it or not. And if I don't make it, please feel free to call me at 801-636-3500 and ask me any questions or email me rod@rodfife.com. Thanks. Have a great day, guys.